Good evening, Sigma Chi brothers and other friends who are joining us this evening, and welcome to our fourth season of SigTalks, brought to you via a collaboration of the New York City and Washington, D.C. alumni chapters. I'm Jim Cooper, Vice President of the New York City Alumni Chapter and Chairperson for SigTalks, and David Ashenoff, President of the D.C. Alumni Chapter, joins me tonight as my co-moderator in an interview with the 73rd Grand Consul of Sigma Chi, Bob Wilson. This evening, we're going to learn a great deal about Bob's educational, professional, and Sigma Chi background, and that will set the stage for Bob sharing with us some of his key ideas and priorities for Sigma Chi over the next 2 years. Now, Bob was initiated and graduated from Fort Hays State University in Fort Hays, Kansas, and some of his Sigma Chi roles and responsibilities have included, well, let me go over a few of them. I can't possibly touch on all of them. While he was earning his master's degree in international economics at the University of Denver, Bob was the chapter advisor. He also then served as Grand Praetor of the Rocky Mountain Province for 10 years. He's chaired several committees at the Sigma Chi International level, the Peterson Awards Committee, the New Chapter Development Committee, Significant Sig Awards, and Ritual Peers, just to name some. He also facilitated at summer workshops and was a facilitator at the inaugural Horizons Leadership Summit. In 2003, Bob was inducted into the Order of Constantine. He most recently served as our Grand Pro Consul, and then this past June at Grand Chapter, he was elected 73rd Grand Consul of Sigma Chi. So welcome this evening, Bob. We are delighted to have you here to open up SigTalks for the 2023-24 season. David and I are going to start with some questions for you. I'll kick it off with a couple, and then I'll be turning it over to David. So to start with, Bob, what or who initially inspired you to become involved in the fraternity, and how has your commitment to Sigma Chi evolved over the years?
What or who, Jim? And again, some of that may depend on where you consider the first initial involvement with the fraternity. Certainly the brother who recruited me was the one that inspired me to move on and get involved with my local chapter and both pledging and initiating and then stepping on through the various roles at the undergraduate chapter. When I was a pledge, the brother who was consul at the time, highly inspirational to me. Then you get to the international level, and I went to my first workshop, and Keith Kroc, past Grand Consul Keith Kroc and past IBA winner, I saw Keith on stage and said, I can do that. And obviously not nearly as well as Keith does, but he was certainly an inspiration. And the brothers that were co-facilitators with me, I think of Dick Hester, I think of Mike Greenberg, I think of Doug Malloy, Carl Theoking, Mark Quiner, innumerable brothers that I looked up to in developing the workshop repertoire and the workshop cadence of going and helping to inspire our undergraduate brothers there. So, various, likewise, Grand Praetors, all honor to his name. My Grand Praetor when I was a chapter advisor, Ralph Hegstead, just innumerable brothers, Marshall Johnson, who was my roommate at workshop. They're a pretty long list, I guess, Jim, is what I would say.
Okay. Well, it certainly sounds like, it started with time in your own chapter as an undergraduate, and the workshop exposure had a tremendous influence on you. Um, Bob, as another question for you, how do you think your educational background in political science, economics, and international um, economics has influenced your leadership within the fraternity and your professional career?
Oh, certainly within the professional career, Jim, with a bachelor's of econ and a bachelor's of poli sci, yes, read, go to law school. If I can encourage anyone, and David knows this, do not go to law school. Not a fan. I have promised myself many years ago not to be bored and not to be boring, and law school was both to me. God love the brothers and the people that do it, but certainly not for me. And economics, on the other hand, is just this amazing world of anything, and just like opening a new universe to my mind, and the ability to sit down and sketch out a graph of demand, or to put in a 4-quadrant money and banking graph to look at capital versus labor versus price. Just really, really neat stuff, I think. So taking that and being able to use that for commodity trading, which is essentially my profession, has been just hand in glove. Been really something that has helped me develop with hedgersedge.com and our ability to look at demand for essentially the beef market and some meat markets, and focus on agribusiness. My background, I'm 6th generation Coloradoan, and our family ranch is still in the family, and so we've been cattle people and agricultural people for a long time. As far as what that did to my leadership in the fraternity, I tend to look at things as an economist, and I look for value added. I look for reciprocity. I look for a reason for something in the fraternity, whether it's an action or sometimes a person, to say, okay, why do I want to interchange, or why do I want to trade my time and my convictions with this individual, or with this group, or with this project. And so I tend to weigh out a balance, and I think economics can find a balance. I think in the good old economist words of "in a perfect world," and certainly that's what Sigma Chi strives for, although obviously we never quite achieve it. I guess that kind of balance, and that kind of if you do this to here, what happens over here approach to the fraternity leadership is certainly something that weighs on me.
Sure. Well, I was going to ask you what influenced you to enroll at University of Denver in terms of the master's degree, but I think you've already answered that question. The roots are in Colorado, and it makes a lot of sense that you went back home and then served as Grand Praetor in the Rocky Mountain province. David, let me turn it over to you to continue the questions with Bob.
Thanks, Jim. Bob, you mentioned, Hedger's Edge, which, you're a founding partner of. Can you talk a little bit about the challenges and successes that you've encountered in the commodity trading and agribusiness industry, and how those experiences have sort of shaped your leadership style?
Successes in the commodity business, David, sometimes can be an oxymoron. The old line is, how do you make $2 million in the commodity business? And that is, start with $5 million. So it can be very challenging. But as I said, I don't want to be bored or boring. David, it is never the same. It is always challenging. Step in every day and go, okay, what's going to try and mess me up today, or what am I going to succeed at today? And you never really know, which is think on your feet, fly by the seat of your pants, whatever word you want to use. Put all your faculties together and then roll the dice and see what the best deal that you can come up with. And it's every day exciting. As far as developing the business with hedgersedge.com, we looked at not only our trading business, and if you look at a trading business, the world thinks trading business is built around commission. Well, at a corporate level, the trading business is built around interest rates and generating positive cash flow and items that most people don't associate with everyday trading. And for the older brothers, if you watch the movie Trading Places, where they talk about the orange juice market, I am actually Eddie Murphy. So that's the approach that my trading style, which can get me in a lot of trouble and can also be a whole lot of fun. I can't say I've made enough money to buy that yacht and buy that island like they did in the movie, but hopefully someday I'll cash in those chips as well. So the hedgersedge.com, we decided, you know what, not everybody wants to be a trader, but they all need the information. And in particular, our cash clients that may not rely on hedging, that may rely on cross facilitation with different members and different levels of the beef industry. The feedlot man who wants to talk to the white table restaurant about featuring only his beef. That kind of information and that kind of relationship building is what hedgersedge.com is all about. And that's been extremely rewarding. We've been doing that for over 20 years and has likewise helped buffer and support the trading business as well.
Great. And, I think I find it funny that, when I meet a number of folks all across the country, a lot of times they'll think that Sigma Chi officers are, paid people by the fraternity. And in fact, they're just volunteer leaders. And, having different experiences in the professional world and then bringing that all into Sigma Chi, once you do, run the sort of leadership ladder and have the ability and honor to become Grand Consul, I think it really speaks well for our fraternity that we have that sort of level of experience from folks like you and others who have held the position, and really allows us to do a lot more than what we might be able to do without that sort of professional side. But in addition to all of that stuff that you do in the sort of professional environment, you've also got your Sigma Chi responsibilities. And over the years, you've had a lot of them and have served on a long, lengthy list of Sigma Chi fraternity committees. And I know Jim mentioned some of them, whether that be Mission 365 or the new chapter development committee. What sort of initiatives or projects that you worked on were particularly impactful or really meaningful to you?
Absolutely, David. Mission 365, the fraternity.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
the fraternity's recruitment program. I was lucky enough to be on the ground floor with Brother Greenberg when he kicked that off, and Ansley Valentine and I were actually alpha testing it the first time out on the road, and just an amazing program that brought so many results and brought so many levels of social intelligence and emotional intelligence and personality styles, and the ability to go in and say, there are ways to influence people, ways to persuade people, list off pathos and logos and ethos, and watch the undergraduates go, oh, what in the world would that be? And then let them and help them to recognize that they do that every day. Is just and it was just amazing. It allowed me to likewise get out and meet so many undergraduates on so many campuses that it was really fun. In the next step to go into that and look at the new chapter development committee and say, okay, let's not just talk about, okay, we've got a Sigma Chi chapter, now we're recruiting for them and improving them. We're starting from scratch. And let's go recruit the men who want something different in their fraternal experience, who want something different in their university experience, who want to know, the bonds and the values, or share those bonds and values that they already have inside them, that their campus just didn't have a place for yet. And that has been very exciting. The expansion team and the growth director, brother Des Robinson really guided me and opened my eyes as to just what was out there, and the ability to go through 10 installations in a couple of years and target 12 more in the next 2 years. That's really, really fun and really exciting, David.
And I'd say it's even, fun and exciting to watch you facilitate a Mission 365 program, since I'll just put in the plug and thank you for doing that for my home chapter, William & Mary, for a number of years. Getting to see you so enthusiastic about the importance of recruitment, and then being able to convey that message in a way that our undergraduates understood, and then we're able to apply that, it was great to be able to see the success that came from that following one of your Mission 365 sessions. So thank you for all the work that you did in that program and for my home chapter.
Well, I appreciate that, David. It was fun too. So don't ever leave that part out.
And, now that you are our Grand Consul, what have you found to be the most sort of significant challenge transitioning from the Grand Proconsul role to now being our top officer in the fraternity?
David, if I can say it, the light of self-control is one that really needs to develop itself in Brother Wilson here. I tend to be flippant. I tend to be sarcastic. I tend to be impulsive. This sounds like fun, and sometimes that's not the best approach. And the fact that I can say something off the cuff or in complete jest that all of a sudden is taken as, this is now governing law level gospel, has got me, checking myself more and more, and the ability to lean on others and to say, hey, Wilson, maybe you ought to tone this down just a little bit here or there, and that inner circle and council of true friends and true brothers that number one, first understand me, and then number two, say, not everybody's at that level yet, Bob. So I think that has been the biggest challenge. The ability to build teams and to take very disparate personalities and backgrounds and put them together on a team has been the most rewarding. The other thing, of course, is that now as Grand Consul, you got to look out for the Grand Proconsul, and God love you, Tim Sanderson, because you looked out for me, and now I've got to do that for a Grand Proconsul.
You mentioned leaning on others, and you mentioned the fact that you had Tim serving as Grand Consul while you were Grand Pro, and it's great that we have that ability for folks when they're moving up that ladder to develop that sort of experience on the executive committee before they get to the top level. With mentioning that leaning on others, and having that executive committee to work alongside you and work towards, the benefit of the fraternity. A lot of folks, I don't think, really understand how our executive committee works together, addresses priorities and sort of makes decisions. Can you sort of pull back that curtain a bit and tell us a little bit about that process?
It's like they say in the meat business, David, it's definitely making sausage. The executive committee is represented by the Grand Consul, the Grand Proconsul, the Grand Quaestor, which are all selected at Grand Chapter by the entire body. Then there are 2 IBA reps, International Balfour Award winners for the current year and the previous year. There are 2 undergraduate reps who are selected only by the undergraduates. There is a representative from the Grand Trustees, only selected by the Grand Trustees. 2 representatives from the Grand Prators, only selected by the Grand Prators. And then the alumnus at large, who is only selected by the caucusing alumni chapters that are represented, and then rounded out with the most immediate past Grand Consul. So the makeup, we all have a plethora or a variation of shareholders and stakeholders and constituencies that we feel like we need to represent. But the biggest constituency of all, of course, is our undergraduate brothers. And everything that I believe, everything that the EC does has that in mind, in providing them the best experience that we can in the fraternity, providing them the best opportunities that we can for individual growth, for chapter growth, for development into a man and a man of character that does change the world. And our mission statement specifically speaks to that we use friendship, justice, and learning to empower those brothers and inspire those brothers to go out there and make a difference and make a positive difference. So I think that the executive committee, as far as motivation, definitely is relying upon those tenets and those principles, and those, of course, our values. As far as pulling back the curtain, I feel like my role is that if I can understand the members of this team and help them to realize the potential that they have in any crisis or any problem or any program or any project, that they're all really vital to my solution. And if I can understand how they view a win or view success, then I'm going to be a whole lot better in motivating them to that success. So a lot of it is much like working with our undergraduates, I think, pulling back and trying to look at things from their perspective, from their goals, from what they need for their constituencies. And then, it's not, it's certainly not a dictatorship, and it's not compromise. It's a meeting of the minds and a collaboration to, again, make sure that the highest benefit possible is given to our undergraduate brothers.
We've mentioned your work through the committee process in Sigma Chi on the executive committee. You've served as a facilitator for a number of years at workshops at our Officer Training Academy, for chapter retreats, etc. What sort of approaches or strategies have you found to be most effective in helping that young fraternity leader develop their skills and abilities?
Oh, I think the best thing that any facilitator can do is walk in with an open heart and an open mind, David. And as my dad used to say, you've got two ears and one mouth, use them accordingly. And I think we've got to listen to our undergraduate brothers. Developing a rapport and that is just essential to earning their trust. And if one can really develop trust in a short amount of time, that goes back to having common values and a common foundation and a common belief and a common experience in the fraternity. So, they want to know, the undergraduate brothers want to know that you've had those experiences and that you have grown from them and that you've learned from them. And has that developed a success? You can't protect them from road bumps or speed bumps or issues or backlash, but you can give them the tools so that they can develop that and move forward. I think the really great thing about Sigma Chi is the fact that there's no judgment in there, and there's no blame game that's really played with our chapters. It's a situation of, okay, this is a situation that has developed. What can we do to help you? What tools can we provide? What inspiration? What how do we go back to the value-based decisions and get you back on the right path? And they really, I think, appreciate that kind of approach. I don't know that there's necessarily any real I wouldn't call it trick, but the main thing is just being there as their brother, not necessarily as, you know, some officer, some grand officer, some chapter advisor, but stepping into that discussion group and that small group and developing that trust by just being the brother that you were initiated to be and that you've grown to become.
And how, this is sort of, you know, in tandem with that sort of question, but when you walk into a room, you're typically announced as, you know, Grand Consul Bob Wilson, or that title goes along with any sort of introduction that you get now in Sigma Chi. How, when you walk into those rooms and you're meeting with those undergraduates, how can you make it more about that being brother to brother, as you were mentioning, instead of, you know, Grand Consul to undergraduate brother?
I think that biggest step just again comes from opening your heart. The best, when I was elected, a young alumnus brother from Georgetown said, you need to do three things, Bob. You need to be humble, you need to remember your own mortality, and you need to keep your sense of humor. And I think if I can do those three things in any conversation, you know, they don't have to worry about the Cooper badge or the, you know, anything of the kind. It's just Brother Wilson. And you know, when they come in, or I walk into a chapter room, I was just at Southern Utah University, and we had a ritual meeting, and you know, the undergraduates were all told or coached or all did come over and introduce themselves, and you know, they started using things like Mr. and Sir, and it's just like, nope, it's got to either be Brother or Wilson. Take your pick. And you know, trying to put them at ease that you know, it's crazy. They say, well, you deserve to be Grand Consul. No, you don't. It wasn't anything you did. It wasn't anything you earned. It was the trust that the Grand Chapter and the brothers of our fraternity said, you know what, we believe in your style and we believe in your leadership vision, and so you're the guy that we want to take the helm for a minute. So it's not like there's some high and mighty preordained, it's in your blood from God kind of thing. It's simply the ability to be that brother that they need when they need it.
And, you know, you mentioned the Cooper badge, and I got to ask, what was it like? What was that feeling getting pinned with the Cooper badge?
It is really crazy, really, really crazy when past Grand Consul Sanderson, you know, takes it off his chest and puts it on mine. No words, David. Just it's a lifetime, or at least a you know, 18 to however old I am, to you know, years of committing to values and understanding and trying to do the best job that Sigma Chi can do, and to have that kind of history and that kind of connection that close to your heart is it's really overwhelming.
And be able to lean on that foundation that all of your predecessors have left to you is certainly got to be a good feeling as well too.
It's amazing what the past Grand Consuls put together as a group, and you know, they I believe it to this day. It's not like any one of them followed the same path, or any one of them has said, well, that guy is exactly what I'm going to do, and I'm going to just follow in his footsteps. Every one of them that I've ever met and ever been involved with have blazed their own trail and set their own cadence and done it their way, and admirably so. So very, very much in awe of them, and to think of them as your support group is again very overwhelming.
Well, I've got one more question for you, but before I turn it over back to Jim. And, you know, I want to preface this first by one, saying thank you for your work on behalf of Sigma Chi. You know, being simply a volunteer leader is time consuming in the fraternity, but rising up to the level for which you now have, it has got to be nonstop work. And, you know, you've got your own personal and professional responsibilities in addition to your fraternal ones. How are you able to sort of balance those responsibilities and commitments?
Um, that is quite the question, David. I used to when I was an undergraduate, I had this sphere of 4 or 5 balls in the air, and I would always drop one. You know, I had my personal relationship with my wife there at college. I had the chapter. I had student government. I had my academics, and I was doing this all the time, and it always seemed like one of them fell to the ground, and I had to pick it back up. And I guess I kind of view it the same way here. You know, I've got my volunteer work with my parish. I've got my family life. I've got the constraints and wonders of business, and then the Grand Consul and Sigma Chi part of it that's pulling at you, and trying to keep all those items up in the air and not letting any one of them drop is challenging. And I got to tell you, I'm still not perfect at it. Something always seems to be, oh, I got to get back over here and pick that up. The time management that I learned from Chuck Thatcher, all honor to his name, has been amazing. And likewise, the support I get at the office from my principal and from my chief compliance officer, and obviously from my family, and then from the fraternity, from our executive director, Brother Church, and all of the grand officers and the EC members and the alumni chapter presidents and the undergraduates and everybody that says, you know what, we really do want this to be successful. How can I help you do that? Really, I've got to rely on that. There is just, I've learned that it's that support group and that support mechanism, and the ability to say, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I'm not the guy with all the ability, and I'm certainly not the genie with the wand. I'm going to have to let some other people show me what needs to be done and how to do it. And it's that kind of support, I think, that really allows me to keep everything in focus. I've said I don't want to be bored. I don't want to be boring. I also tend to have a big faith in the distance and the fact that whatever horizon I can see, I believe is going to be better. And so being able to get to that point and take people with me or have people drag me there, whichever way it might be, is really, I think, what keeps me motivated and keeps me moving in search of that distance and that horizon.
Well, from our viewpoint, and I know it's only been a few months into your tenure, but you're doing a pretty darn good job so far.
I appreciate that, David. Thank you, brother.
Absolutely. Jim?
Okay, thanks, David. There's some terrific exchanges there with Bob. And before I move on for the final 2 questions for Bob, I've got 3 comments. One would be this. If anyone in the audience tonight has a question they'd like to pose to Bob, please take a look over on the right side of your screen, and you can pose that question under the comments section that appears on your screen. Secondly, listening to what you were talking about, having the Cooper badge pinned on you, I'm sure it brought you back in many ways to that same feeling you had when your initial Sigma Chi badge was pinned on you at your initiation. All of us can remember that as one of the best moments in our lives. And what a great chance to relive it for you, Bob. Third comment would be this, back to that question that David posed about transitioning from Grand Proconsul to Grand Consul. Now, I've only known you for about 1.5 years, Bob, but I've come to love the authentic Bob Wilson. And I know that many others feel the same way. So I know, what you're talking about in terms of how you have to adapt yourself as Grand Consul. But please don't temper yourself too much, because we all love the authentic Bob. And that's the Bob that was elected Grand Consul, by the way. So.
Well, I appreciate that, Jim. And as I alluded to David, there is a light of self-control that just tends to go down a little bit. So that's when Wilson comes out. I had made reference to Doug Malloy. He was a leader for one of my workshop faculty, and I was trying to put myself in a facilitator box and be, the prototype facilitator. And Doug Malloy said, "Don't you dare." He said, "That's not why we want you to facilitate, and that's not who you are." And quite frankly, when he opened that lid, Wilson's never been back in the box since. So
Yep.
I appreciate that, Jim.
Being yourself is the best thing. So we've got two more questions for you before we open it up to any questions from the audience. Over the years, you've provided mentorship and officer-specific training for undergraduates at both a chapter and at the summer workshop level. And I know firsthand about your presence at the Kroc Transformational Leadership Workshops, where I've been a facilitator for the last 2 years and seen you there in both years and the way that you engage with the undergraduates while you're there. So I would pose this question to you. How has your firsthand exposure and involvement with the undergraduates shaped your viewpoint on, what their characteristics are? How are they a little different than the other generations of Sigma Chi's? And what do you see as the common threads between them and even us boomers?
The common threads are certainly the values, Jim. Our undergraduate brothers exemplify those. They meet the Jordan standard. They exemplify the Jordan standard, and you can look at an undergraduate and know that his experiences, while they're going to be different based on generations, are going to be based in the same support group and in the same method of chapter. It was always my opinion that chapter meetings were sanctuary, and the fact that you could go there and just absolutely be able to say and talk about and have that undeniable and unconditional support from the brothers in the room. To know that our undergraduate brothers have that opportunity and have that ability, and quite frankly may not have it anywhere else. The fact that they can engage in discussions with men who are generations older than them, and men who are generations older than them, can likewise engage in discussions with them. The spirit of youth argument or discussion or tenet has often been thrown my way, and I look at that and say, yeah, I guess, but really the idea that it's an undergraduate or an alumnus, they're all brothers, and we're all brothers, and what difference does it make if I've walked across a commencement stage and picked up a sheepskin? It doesn't change my feeling for the fraternity or my bond of brotherhood that we have said are lifelong. And I got to tell you, the undergraduates blow me away. If I had to compete against them for any of the things that I did as an undergraduate, there isn't any way. They're much brighter. They're much quicker. They're very dedicated. They just amaze me. And when you talk about hope for the future, whenever I do get the opportunity to make a presentation, I have the undergraduates stand up and point out to anybody else in the room that they are the hope for my future. And as far as I see in Sigma Chi, that's a very bright future.
Well, it's great to hear that viewpoint. And again, you anticipated my question about what makes them special or unique. And I think you've enumerated a number of characteristics there about them. So one final question for you, kind of one that really sums everything up in terms of what we can look forward to over the next couple of years. How do you envision the future of Sigma Chi under your leadership and as part of the broader interfraternal landscape?
Jim, Sigma Chi is never going to take a second seat when it comes to leadership. It's always going to be in the forefront. We are always going to, look at what the community and what the world needs now, and then do our level best to serve that up to them in the best possible light. I don't see. I have had the opportunity to discuss with other fraternal leaders, and I don't want to be cocky or arrogant or anything of the kind, but we are definitely in the leadership role. Sigma Chi Fraternity will lead those programs and lead those developments and process those answers and set us forward. I really, Brother Sanderson used the motto, "The world needs more Sigma Chi," and that is something that I absolutely believe in. I think the world is hungry for value-based organizations. I think the world is, never discount what truly committed men to high ideals can achieve, because they will change the world. And I believe that's exactly the journey and the pathway that Sigma Chi is on, is to change the world, and to not necessarily trumpet ourselves as doing it, but just getting it done and making it better. And under whether I'm the Grand Consul or whether I'm pushing a program for engagement or a program for growth or trying to develop further education for our undergraduate brothers, that it doesn't matter if it's me. It's Sigma Chi, and it's the leadership that Sigma Chi has been able to develop through all of us, that is going to take that to the next level and to the next step, and really change the world. And it's going to do it in the next 2 years, the next 4 years, the next 10 years. And I have a 4.5-year-old grandson, so in the next 16 years, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, that's great, Bob. Listening to what you've had to say tonight, it's patently obvious that you're extremely well qualified, well prepared, and highly motivated for the role that you've undertaken. And we look forward to the next 2 years and the leadership that you're going to provide. Before we close it out tonight with Bob, would ask if there are any audience questions, and ask our producer to put them on the screen if we have any. From Evan Fay, and I'll read this one aloud. Hey, Bob, thanks for the time tonight to talk Sigma Chi. My question is, what advice might you give young alumni, maybe even undergrads, who have interest in serving in a larger role within the fraternity? What advice would you give to hypothetically climb the ladder and one day possibly become Grand Consul themselves?
Brother Evan, I guess it's been a hell of a ride, and I would say enjoy it. I would say the need or the desire to get more involved can always start at the local level. Yeah, you can feed your name up through a chapter advisor or through a grand praetor, or if you've been to an alumnus event and the alumni chapter president says, "Oh yeah, I know this guy or I know that guy," and get cycled into that. The best thing that happened to me was exactly that. I was able to have my name sent up and say, hey, this guy, is actually pretty good with the undergraduates, or this guy as an undergraduate, this brother as an undergraduate in his undergraduate years developed some real rapport with university officials or with other chapter members or with an interfraternity council, and really kind of trade on your undergraduate years and say, yeah, I loved Sigma Chi and I lived Sigma Chi and I'm not done yet. And the fraternity leadership will find you.
Well, that was a really good question from Brother Fay. Do we have any other questions? Bob, what was your favorite memory as an undergraduate and as an alum relative to the fraternity? Uh-oh, here we go.
I'm gonna pass on at least a couple of those war stories. Yeah, the memory as an undergraduate, I remember going to my first workshop. 5 of us from Fort Hays State piling into a custom Chevy van and driving cross country to the workshop meeting and just the driving 20 hours, 24 hours, whatever it was, just nonstop. That was absolutely memorable. And that sticks out in my undergraduate years. There were other days when we decided we would cut class and on a Friday in April and run out to surprise Lake Wilson in good old central Kansas and talk to a sorority chapter into going with us and just very memorable kind of social interactions, I guess, are really the highlights there. I likewise as an alumnus, really all the various guys that I've been able to meet through my Mission 365 trips, through working as a Grand Curator with the various consuls and undergraduates. There are really just so many Grand Chapter activities, and the one really that does stick in my mind though is the opportunity to do installations with the University of Tennessee, 176 new brothers pinned, and then follow up 8 days later with Gamma Iota and LSU, and pin another 140, and the ability to look in those young initiates' eyes, 300 of them in 8 days, and just see that really hope for the future that I talked about earlier is something I will always remember.
And I'm sure the undergraduates are really thrilled to see you at their initiation. That would really make it very special on top of what they're already experiencing. And just to touch on another point that you made about involvement in the fraternity, David and I are both active in our respective alumni chapters. David's the president of his, I'm vice president. And if you join an alumni chapter, there are just endless ways that you can find that you can contribute to the fraternity in little ways or big ways, whatever you want to do. But those alumni chapters are really a great avenue for getting involved.
Agreed, Jim. And if you don't mind a little plug here,
Sure.
Sigma Chi came up with multiple years ago 88 ways to be involved, and we went to an engagement specialist and engagement professional who works with the alumni groups from various universities and various Greek groups, and he took a look at that and went, 88 ways, what the hell? And then read through them, and he said, this is amazing. He said, most places will tell you there's 6 or 8 or maybe you get into the teens, but Sigma Chi has 88 viable ways, and here they are, and kudos to Sigma Chi. So
is there some way we can access that list of 88? Would you know?
Theoretically, it's supposed to be on the website, but
all right,
we'll see if that's possible. I do know that your alumnus rep at large, Brother Andrew Crossan, definitely has a copy of it.
There's the website streaming across the bottom of the page. Producer, do we have any more questions, or are we done for tonight? What are your plans with Sigma Chi after you complete your term as Grand Consul? We're already looking at when you're out of office, Bob. So what are they?
Quick, get rid of him. To some degree, that will depend on the worthy Grand Proconsul and how Brother Temby, or theoretically Brother Temby, the next Grand Consul decides. I can provide value, and certainly will be more than willing to support the next Grand Consul, just as I've received such tremendous support from the past Grand Consuls. What does that look like? No idea. I'm still a ritual peer for one of the undergraduate chapters, and I anticipate continuing to do that, and really just being available for whatever service I can provide to the fraternity that has given me so much. So don't think it's done yet, Plus.
All right. Well, one thing I think we already know is you've been contributing all of your adult life, and it certainly would be no surprise that it'll continue after you serve as Grand Consul. Well, okay. Was there anything else for Bob tonight? Nope, we're done, Bob. Can't thank you enough for giving us your evening. We've learned a lot more about you and some pretty good ideas about what you're going to be doing. So thank you so very much for appearing on the opening round of our 4th season of SigTalks.
You're very welcome, and thank you, brothers. Go forth and conquer, as they say.
Would just like to talk a little bit about upcoming events on SigTalks. We are still working on the October SigTalk. We have some great potential speakers lined up for October, but we just need a final confirmation. So please look on all the places where you see information about SigTalks for what will be upcoming in October. In November, we have pinned it down already. November 16th, we will have 2 speakers, both of whom occupy very senior positions in the National Park Service. One of them, the director of the National Park Service.
Former director.
And another, the executive head of the National Parks Foundation. So we know that there's a great interest in national parks among our membership. Mark it on your calendar now, November 16th, because that will certainly be an interesting and intriguing SigTalk.
Jim, as long as we're plugging the end of June 2025, you've already talked about getting rid of me. Grand chapter in Denver, Colorado, at the Gaylord of the Rockies. So go ahead and pencil that idea in as well.
That'll be 25. Okay, that's
Yes.
A couple of years out or a year and a half out, but couldn't be a better location, I'm sure.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So hope everybody can consider that.
All right. Thank you for joining us tonight, audience, and we look forward to seeing you again in October. Bob, good night, and everybody have a great rest of the week.